Greetings, welcome to number 33. This time we'll be talking more about cost in the watch industry. I know last time we did a breakdown of costs of what some items could cost, like the watch assembly, more like manufacturing costs, right? Like items that you would buy, like the movement, the case of the watch, and all that stuff. And a lot of times I gave the cheapest price available. This time, I would like to focus on why the typical markup in the watch industry is 500 to 600 markup, but also the the gross breakdown of the expenses that are not manufacturing costs. So anything else that's outside manufacturing the watch and why that markup makes sense. But one caveat that I need to address is that this pricing breakdown or this cost breakdown, it is going to apply to bigger companies, not so much to smaller companies like independent or the new wave of brands that have been coming up through the ranks. For example, like a Fears or Tipsim or Arcanaut maybe. Uh, Brands like that might not apply or might not go under this breakdown that I'm going to do. So depending how long this episode takes, I will do a third one on creating the same analysis of expenses, but for a smaller or independent watch brand. So keeping this in mind, I would like to start this time with watch industry markup analysis and understanding why the 500 to 600% pricing structure makes sense. So the 500 600 markup in the watch industry reflects a complex cost structure where manufacturing represents only a really small fraction of the final retail price. This substantial markup exists because the total cost of bringing a luxury watch to market extends way beyond the direct manufacturing expenses, meaning we have to take into account operational, marketing, and distribution costs that are essential for this big brand's positioning and market success. So, if we start with research and development, the foundation of innovation, research and development represents one of the most significant non manufacturing expenses in the watch industry. Luxury watch brands invest heavily in innovation, with developing a single in-house movement taking 5 to 7 years and costing 8 to 20 million depending on complexity. This substantial investment must be amortized and across the lifetime production of watches using that movement. So meaning when let's see, who can we use for example? For example, Rolex, right? Like they developed this new movement for the land dweller. Uh, we could use that as an example. It would take 5 to 7 years to develop it, or maybe less. Who knows? But that's the average that we're giving, and it would take that amount of money to develop something like that, a movement like that. Especially because I've heard that this movement is actually pretty complex and it includes a lot of stuff, a lot of new technology that a lot of people just didn't pay attention to. Major manufacturers like Citizen Watch spends 5.8 billion Japanese yen on R&D in fiscal year 2023, for example, while Seiko Holdings allocated similar amounts to research and development activities. These investments cover not only movement development, but also new materials research, complications development, and manufacturing process improvement that maintain competitive advantage in the luxury market. So, for example, IWC, when they develop a new case, using a new material. That's probably how they do it, and that's probably the amount of money that they invest in research and development for this new materials that they use. Marketing and advertising, building brand prestige. Marketing expenses constitute a substantial portion of operational cost, with luxury watch brands typically allocating 8 to 12% of their revenues towards marketing and advertising activities. The scale of the investments that they put on advertising is really, really considerable. Rolex, for example, spent approximately 56 million on advertising in 2014, representing over 10% of total industry advertising expenditure. This, according to the Lonely Wrist article. The marketing budget encompasses diverse channels and strategies. For example, we have digital marketing campaigns, we have collaborations, we have print advertising, experiential marketing, meaning when they do trips for people to go, like the really people that are invested in brands, like they buy a lot. They could spend the brand could spend from $25,000 to $75,000 for exclusive events, or even just trunk shows, right? Like the events where companies go and visit your city and then they show you your watches. That's probably how much they have to spend. These investments are essential for maintaining the luxury positioning that justifies premium pricing in the market. Distribution and logistics. Distribution costs encompass the complex logistics of moving luxury timepieces from manufacturers to global markets. Distribution costs range in the $500,000 range for establishing a watch brand, reflecting the substantial investment required to build effective distribution networks. This an article from Orus Watch Straps. So if you want to check it out, I can leave the link on the notes. The distribution infrastructure includes wholesale pricing. Again, this is for big brands, right? So a smaller brand, they're not gonna have wholesale people or anybody that they sell at a wholesale price. So wholesale pricing, mid-range luxury watches typically cost between $500 to $2,000 per unit at wholesale. Fulfillment and shipping from $10 to $30 per order for luxury watches. Warehouse operations from $5 to $15 per square foot monthly for storage facilities. Some of the data comes from Watch Crunch, by the way. Quality control distributors serve as the final quality checkpoint before retail. Again, smaller brands are not going to have this, right? So they're going to perform the quality control before they even ship the unit to you. Retail markup. Retail markup represents the largest single cost component in the watch industry pricing structure. Authorized dealers typically receive margins of 30 to 40% on luxury watches, with some brands offering margins as high as 50% to incentivize retailer partnerships. A lot of this information comes from TikToking.com or ThreadCurve. The retail markup covers substantial operational expenses. Prime retail locations, for example, monthly rent ranging from $15,000 to $30,000 for luxury retail spaces, depending where it is, where the store is located. Sorry. Specialized sales training, extensive product knowledge training for sales staff. Inventory financing, significant capital requirements for maintaining luxury watch inventory. Showroom presentation, creating a appropriate luxury retail environment. Some of this information comes from a blog to watch. Warranty and service infrastructure. Warranty and service costs represents ongoing commitments that luxury brands must maintain throughout the product lifecycle. Extended warranties typically cost comparable to one routine service, with coverage ranging from $200 to $500 annually for a $10,000 watch. So let's say Omega, you buy an extended warranty, you send it to service, you're probably gonna cover those $200 to $500. The service infrastructure includes service center operations, technician training, parts inventory, extended warranty programs. So, for example, I sent my Seiko Sarb. Actually, the rotor kind of came off and it was not winding properly. But that watch, I sent it maybe like 3 years ago for service, and granted, it costs as much as the watch cost, just to service it. But it's a watch that I liked, so I thought, well, I'm gonna take the hit, and I like the watch. I'm gonna keep wearing it. But there was a service center in the East Coast, so I sent it there. So obviously there's a technician there that they had to train on this specific movement. Parts and inventory. I don't know if they changed the full movement or they just fixed it, but all those costs are included in that. Obviously, I didn't have an extended warranty, so I paid out of pocket. So that's an example of how these things work. Next, training and certifications, developing skilled workforce. The luxury watch industry requires highly skilled professionals throughout the supply chain. They need significant training investments. Watchmaker training programs can extend from 10 to 12 years for complex timepieces, with companies like Rolex operating tuition-free training centers that provide monthly stipends of $1,800 to students. This information comes from some comes from Time and Tide watches, and the other one comes from Statista. Training costs encompass watchmaker education, certification programs, ongoing education, retail training, equipment and technology, manufacturing infrastructure. So, while not part of direct manufacturing costs, the specialized equipment and technology required for luxury watchmaking represent significant capital investment. Specialized watchmaking equipment can cost from $10,000 to $50,000 for comprehensive setups, with individual precision tools and machinery requiring substantial investment. So some examples of the technology investments can include the CNC machining equipment, quality control instruments, digital platforms for e-commerce and inventory management systems, security systems, brand partnership and sponsorship. Luxury watch brands invest heavily in prestigious partnerships and sponsorships to maintain their market positioning. Watchmakers spend an estimated of $88 million annually on Formula One sponsorships. Tag Heuer, Rolex, maybe, with individual deals reaching $150 million for major partnerships. Some of this information come from Europastar and Fin Models Lab. This investment serve multiple strategy purposes. So, brand association, meaning linking the timepieces with prestigious events and personalities, like Tag Heuer, Max Verstappen. Market visibility, ensuring prominent placement in target demographic viewing. Exclusive positioning, differentiating from competitors through unique partnerships. Global reach, meaning accessing international markets through sports and entertainment. Tennis is huge also on watch spotting. Insurance and legal compliance. The luxury watch industry faces significant insurance and legal costs due to the high value of products and complex international operations. So insurance costs for luxury watch operations range from $5,000 to $20,000 annually. This comes from a blog to watch. I like to cite some of the information here because I don't want to sound sketchy, like I'm pulling all this data from my behind. No, this is actually something that it's public, right? It's out there. It's information that it actually can be found. So this legal costs, they cover various risk factors including theft, liability, and business interruption. Legal and compliance expenses can be product liability insurance, meaning protection against potential defects or injuries, intellectual property protection like patents or trademarks, International compliance, meaning meeting regulations across global markets. Business interruption coverage, which is protection against operational disruptions. Administrative overhead. So the administrative overhead encompass the corporate infrastructure required to operate luxury watch brands effectively. So this is not just a one-man show. This is a huge brand, and you're going to have a bunch of people involved in it. These costs include management salaries, facilities, and general administrative expenses that can range from 3 to 8% of final product pricing. Administrative costs can include corporate management, facilities operations, meaning the corporate headquarters and facilities for administration, financial systems, meaning accounting, the reporting, and financial management, regulatory compliance, meaning meeting various business and industry regulations, inventory management. Inventory management represents both capital investment and operational expense for luxury watch brands. Inventory costs can account for 35 to 45% of operating expenses for watch retailers, reflecting the significant capital requirements and associated carrying costs. Some of this information comes from FinModel's lab. Inventory management includes capital investment, storage cost, insurance coverage, and turnover optimization. Capital investment means substantial funds tied up in luxury watch inventory. Turnover optimization means balancing availability with inventory carrying cost. So how long does it take you to sell a watch, basically, right? So from when you make the watch to sell it, so you want to optimize that amount of time. That's what it means. So to finalize this episode, I would just want to say that justifying the markup structure, right? The 500 to 600% markup in the luxury watch industry, meaning big brands, not the small ones, reflects the comprehensive cost structure required to develop, manufacture, market, and distribute luxury timepieces in global markets. Manufacturing costs typically represent only 5 to 15% of the final retail price, while the remaining 85 to 95% covers the extensive operational, marketing, and distribution infrastructure necessary for luxury brand success. This markup structure enables luxury watch brands to maintain the research and development investments, marketing, service infrastructure, retail partnership, all these items that sustain the brand and their market position. The substantial non-manufacturing costs are essential for creating and maintaining the brand value, exclusivity, and service quality that justify premium pricing in the luxury watch market. It might sound that the watch doesn't cost a lot to make, but mainly because these watch brands are big enough that they can sell so many. They have a standard process, right? So maybe their manufacturing costs are less because they're standardized process, right? So there's less hands touching the 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 materials that create the watch, right? So it's more machine, less sometimes less hands actually touching the watch, and it's more automated, and maybe that's why it's cheaper. They can also, since they sell more, they can spread the cost of everything, like for example the R&D that we talked about at the beginning, throughout more units, which makes it easier to make new things, or to if they're trying to create something new, it makes it easier to spread the cost throughout many more units. So since I'm already a little bit long on time here, I would like to make the same breakdown but for a small or independent watch brand next time. So 34 will be that. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Some of the things that I said on the last episode were mostly aimed for what is the cheapest watch that you can make with the materials that you can find out there. That doesn't mean that's as cheap as you can go, and that doesn't mean that's as cheap as these brands go. But I just want to give an understanding of how this works. Hopefully that came out clear. We'll see. I'll get some feedback for next episode. Again, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. See you next time.